Hey everyone, welcome back to Lovoria Network, the place where real hearts speak louder than words. Today's story will take you deep into a moment that changed my life forever, my wedding day. A day that was supposed to be filled with love, family, and blessings turned into the loneliest day I've ever known. I'm sharing this not just as a memory, but as a reminder that sometimes, life teaches us strength through heartbreak. So, sit back, listen closely, and maybe, you'll see a piece of yourself somewhere in my story. It all started on a bright Saturday morning, the kind of morning you wait your whole life for. The sun was soft, the air was light, and everything around me screamed new beginnings. I looked at my reflection in the mirror, wearing the dress I had dreamed about since I was a little girl. But behind the smile, there was a nervous tremble in my heart. Something felt missing, even though I couldn't name it yet. I told myself it was just wedding jitters. After all, every bride feels that way, right? As I stood in the bridal room, my phone kept lighting up, but not with the messages I was hoping for. No texts from my family. No calls from my father. I checked the time again and again, convincing myself they were just late. Maybe traffic, maybe a mix-up, maybe something else. But deep down, a small voice inside whispered, "They're not coming." I tried to silence that thought. I looked at my bridesmaids, smiling nervously, trying to fill the silence with laughter. They told me how beautiful I looked, how proud my parents must be. I nodded, pretending, because admitting the truth at that moment would have broken me before I even walked down the aisle. Minutes turned into hours, and soon it was time. The ceremony music started playing softly in the background. The guests stood, the camera lights flickered, but the seats I'd reserved for my family were still empty. Every chair in that front row, untouched. Every space that should have been filled with love, echoing with absence. My heart sank, but I lifted my chin, forcing a smile. When I walked down the aisle, I looked around one last time, praying for a miracle. Maybe my father would appear at the door, late but proud. Maybe my mother's eyes would meet mine, filled with tears of joy. But there was no one. Just strangers and friends, clapping, unaware that behind my veil, I was silently breaking apart. The officiant's voice sounded far away, like a blur in a storm. My husband squeezed my hand gently, his eyes full of reassurance, but I couldn't even look at him. My mind was stuck on one question: why wasn't I worth showing up for? Every word of the vows felt heavy. I spoke them, but my heart wasn't there. My heart was still standing in that empty row. After the ceremony, when everyone cheered and threw petals in the air, I ran to the dressing room. I couldn't hold it anymore. I cried, the kind of cry that shakes your entire body. My makeup smeared, my hands trembling, and the only sound in that room was the echo of my own sobs. That's when my maid of honor entered, wrapping me in her arms. She didn't ask what was wrong. She knew. Everyone did. The wedding dinner went on like a show I never auditioned for. Cameras flashing, laughter around me, toasts being made. People complimented everything: the dress, the decor, the cake. But no one dared to mention the one thing missing. My family. My father. The man who once promised me he'd walk me down the aisle one day. He wasn't there. And that absence felt louder than any applause. When the night ended and the guests were gone, I sat in the corner of that empty hall, staring at those untouched chairs again. I imagined the faces that should have been there. My mother's proud smile, my father's tearful nod, my siblings cheering. I whispered a quiet goodbye to that image because I knew now, it wasn't going to happen. The next morning, my phone finally rang. It was my father. My heart jumped, until I heard his voice. Cold. Distant. He said, "I hope you're happy with your choices." That was it. No congratulations, no blessing. Just a reminder of why they never came. My choice, to marry someone they didn't approve of, cost me my family's presence on the most important day of my life. That call changed everything. I realized that love isn't always celebrated. Sometimes it's judged. Sometimes the people you expect to stand beside you are the ones who walk away first. But I also realized something else. I had chosen love. Real love. The kind that accepts you, fights for you, and doesn't need anyone's approval to exist. The days after the wedding were hard. I avoided social media, avoided photos, avoided the pity in people's eyes. But every night, when I looked at my husband asleep beside me, I reminded myself, I wasn't alone. I had someone who showed up, even when my family didn't. And that mattered more than I had ever realized. Months later, I went to visit my father. I stood at his doorstep, flowers in my hands, still hoping. He looked at me through the half-open door and said, "You made your bed, now lie in it." The words stung, but I didn't cry. I smiled gently and said, "Yes, Dad, and it's warm, and it's full of love." Then I turned and walked away. That day, I didn't lose my family. I accepted that they had lost me. Years have passed since that day, and though I still sometimes dream of what it could have been, I no longer ache for it. Because I built my own family, a small circle of love that doesn't depend on blood, but on choice. And if you're listening to this today, wondering why people you love walked away, please remember, your worth isn't defined by who shows up. It's defined by who stays. So yes, on my wedding day, not a single family member showed up. Not even my father. But that day didn't break me. It made me stronger. It taught me that love is not about attendance, it's about presence, the kind that stays when everything else fades. Thank you for listening to my story today. If this touched your heart even a little, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Lovoria Network. Because here, every story reminds us that even in loneliness, there's strength. And even in heartbreak, there's hope.